Gut health and divinity with Sema Kemet yoga, activating the second brain operating from divinity, being here now, honoring intuition, reconnecting to your natural brilliance. Up to very recently, the mainstream media and education has pulled us away from inner union or divine union. This disconnection is the cause of all sickness, according to the philosophy of ancient Kemet. So, what solutions have the mainstream presented us? No nutritional knowledge is required to be a medical professional, yet all of our scholars have said nutrition is the solution. So the solutions that the medical profession are presenting us with are burn, including chemo, which is acidic, so it burns. And another example of burning would be laser surgery. Cut, which is generally opening you up to get to where the problem is. And the final solution, coming from the medical establishment, is poison. Simple painkillers can cause liver and kidney damage. Mental health drugs often lead to diabetes, and chemotherapy can cause death. So what we have are plenty of problems on all levels, all stemming from a disconnection. For instance, this is by no means an exhaustive list, but women have sexual health issues such as ovarian cysts, polycystic fibrosis, uterine endometriosis, etc. Male sexual health issues include premature ejaculation, prostate issues, erectile dysfunction, etc., etc. Mental health issues facing us all are schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, insomnia, etc., etc. This slide presents to us the mental disconnection as a mass group, humanity in general. There's definitely a massive disconnect because at the top right you have cancer research. That's the mainstream dialogue that we don't have a cure for cancer and all the modern diseases. But then the undercurrent, the underdog, the undertone is that we have many of our scholars that have come up with cures, and some of them not even scholars. For instance, Rick Simpson, he came up with a cannabis oil. He's not to my knowledge, not a qualified doctor, but his oil cured all of the people in his surrounding community, and he was, long story short, expelled or what do you call that? Excommunicated, banished from where he come from, which is Canada, because he presented this to the medical establishment and they ran him out of the country, gave him death threats, and just made his life impossible for him to stay in Canada. You have Dr. Stevie, many of us have heard of Dr. Mariandina, Dr. Laila Africa, and Dr. Laila Africa actually says it is a form of schizophrenia to have a solution and to not be using it. It's like a split mind. Your mind knows better, but yet you will still follow something else. For us, Len, in this actual situation is we know that in terms of our health, nature is most likely, according to the rising volume of people coming out with cures, the best way. But yet we will still run to the doctor when it hits us, a lot of us. And when we get sick, and even if we get a diagnosis, a lot of us won't think, oh, let me find a natural cure. A lot of us will just follow whatever the doctor's plan of action is. And that's, according to Dr. Laila Africa, it's a form of schizophrenia, because you know better, really and truly. Meals that make you happy. Here we're going to quickly look at what the mainstream are telling us about our gut. Okay, so there's stress and the vagus nerve in this slide. The gut has more nerve endings than the brain itself. The vagus nerve converts food to feelings. The small intestine is covered in villi, which is like a velvety coating on the lining of the small intestine. Enteroendocrine cells, or neuropod cells, communicate through hormone synapses. So synapses are just forms of communication, electrical impulses with nerves to the vagus nerves. Inside neuropod cells, signals from food are converted to tiny electrical pulses communicating via afferent neuron to the vagus nerve. Vagal neurons carry the sensory information to the brain stem, and this influences brain function in seconds. Showed you a little bit more in detail about the villi and their connection to the vagus nerve, which obviously goes directly to the brain and affects you, like I said, in seconds. So at the top of that little image there, you'll see those pointy fingery things. That's obviously magnified image or depiction of the villi, sticking it up into the intestine, the wall of the intestine. So they pick up signals, and those they detect movement, they detect temperature, and they detect chemicals and hormones, and then they bring them into the cell. And then the little pods there you see, they are what I was talking about, the where is it? They are the neuropod cells. That's the shortest version. The neuropod cells. So they're the ones that communicate via impulses to the vagal neurons, which then communicate to the vagal nerve, which then goes straight to the brain. So that's showing you how when you eat something, whatever hormones are in the food, whatever, I would like to say, vibration is in the food, that goes directly into your brain. Vagal neurons and nerves are in every part of your body, and you can Google the full extent of the vagal nerve around your body. In this slide, though, we just want to focus on how it reinforces the Shetaut Ntr concept of the body communicating to the brain what we know as intuition with what we've seen about food and how it can lower your vibration, making you less likely to hear the high vibrations of unity consciousness, thus holding you out of alignment, disconnected, and in a state of dis-ease. So here, we just look the vagal nerve, because it's focusing on digestion, this slide, this image, you're just seeing, you know, in terms of the digestive system and the vagal nerves extent in terms of only the digestive system. But as I said, the vagal nerve goes into your arms, your feet, your ears, your eyes, everywhere, and obviously into your brain, because that's where what it's to do with. It sends signals to your brain, if you remember, if you're keeping up with me. So yeah, so that shows you that, you know, we were taught in school that if you feel heat in your finger, or someone pricks you with a needle in your finger or anywhere in your body, your brain will receive a signal that that's happened. And that was the extent of our knowledge of, maybe not, we wouldn't have known it as a vagal nerve, but that was as far as it went. But with Shetaut Ntr, it's saying that if you keep your body temple clear, then you can receive signals from the Most High. You can stay in connection with your higher self, or your inner self, I like to say these days. And this slide just reinforces that you know, like, if you put it together with what we've seen about how food can affect your ability to even deal with something as crucial as stress, then obviously all other things that how we're receiving and processing information it's going to be affected by what we're eating. If we're less likely to perceive it in the way that it's actually been sent to us, if you get what I mean. For instance, like what is your playlist like, and have you noticed, like, just do an experiment, see what are you listening to and what you're looking at in terms of media for a week. Do an experiment of positive playlist only and positive music only, and see how you feel that week. And then the next week, if you want to, do an experiment. How do you feel when you're only listening to negative and looking at negative media and listening to negative songs? And at the end of that week, see how you feel, and whether you feel connected and in the flow, or you feel out of the flow. Boosts not only immunity but emotional wellness. Emotions control how we perceive and thus the stress we experience, keeping us in divine union. Plant-based foods create a barrier from pathogens that cause emotional issues, really chemical issues. Cravings triggered by the gut. Altering gut microbes can avoid food cravings. Professor Simon Carding, leading gut health, food and safety research program, University of East Anglia. So what are the signs of digestive issues according to the mainstream? Chronic fatigue, weight gain, stubborn weight that won't shift, anxiety, depression and allergies. But remember, according to Imhotep and the Kemet and philosophy of Shetaut Ntr, and that was that the disease is a result of a disconnection from spirit. And what we've just looked at about the vagus nerve, where science was reinforcing what we learned from Shetaut Ntr, you'll see that any malady in your wellness is actually pointing to a ease in your gut, because the gut is the root of all wellness in your body. Two primary types of bacteria impact the brain. Prevotella, a greater connectivity in emotional and sensory brain regions, and smaller, less active hippocampus. Emotional regulation, i.e. negative imagery, it causes extreme distress, compared to a higher levels of bacteroids, causing more active hippocampus and therefore better emotional regulation and stronger problem solving and information processes, and less distress when seeing stress stimulating images. Perception and fear. Mice given bacteroids rather than Prevotella showed less fear. Fear is the basis of all lower emotion. Fear is perception. Emotions control perception. Food controls emotions. Make you less able to handle stress, or more likely to perceive a stress stimulator as stressful, then this is what you're opening yourself up to. Heart disease, strokes, high blood pressure, colitis, irritability, rheumatism, depression, migraines, diabetes, hardening of the arteries, insomnia, fatigue, sex problems, skin diseases, allergies, overeating, asthma, kidney disorders, ulcers, breath problems, include increased smoking, and this list is definitely not exhaustive. Is telling us in terms of a solution. Shetaut Ntr. Shetaut Ntr means hidden mystery or hidden divinity. It's the divine connection made when you take the inner divinity and then take the outward action. So you're bringing together divine feminine, which is the hidden, and divine masculine, which is the outer. So according to our beloved Sema or Dr. Muada Ashby, dense food gives you a dense mind. In my own words, I would say it slows down your vibration, and so you're less, it's like it turns down the volume of the inner intuition, the instinct, the gut counseling, Your body, like I said earlier, your body's talking to you all the time. It's just whether or not you're hearing it. So your body is a temple for light, and you have to keep that body temple clear to maintain divine connection. According to Imhotep, all diseases begins with the gut. I would just like to say here, Imhotep was obviously the best and brightest of a whole society that had this was philosophy of Shetaut Ntr. Let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. Another quote from Imhotep. So Imhotep is asking, is it going to be a happy meal or a meal that will make you happy? Gap. Diet was a lifestyle in Kemet. Shetaut Ntr, the mystery system or hidden divinity, isn't just philosophy. It is an ancient and transformative science guiding the seeker to enlightenment. Enlightenment is Sematawi Arid, Ma'at, yoga of righteousness and selfless actions, which include vegetarian diet, plus Samatawi Usha, yoga of devotion to divinity within and without, plus Samatawi Rek, yoga of wisdom, plus Samatawi Ua, yoga of meditation, which includes the physical yoga exercise postures such as Tefnataru and a vegetarian diet. Sebai Ma, Dr. Mwata Ashby. Metawi, inner and outer self-balance, higher and lower energies. No good or bad, just balance. Jealous Set chopped up Asar, Haru's dad. Set is your lower energies. Asar represents unity. This is what caused Set to grow jealous of him. Haru represents divine will. He fought Set and Set came back for more until they made a truce to rule together. Or Set, divine wisdom and intuition, healing and self-love, remembered Asar's body and used healing art to beget Haru, divine will. Walking in the gap. Spiritual disconnection, divine masculine and divine feminine, discord between inner and outer selves. So, are you in accord with your inner tuition? Do you action the guidance your dreams give you? Creative ideas, visions? Do you acknowledge your imagination? This is divine union. My humble opinion, anything that raises your vibration is going to elevate you above the level where the stressor can't reach you emotionally. Spiritual disconnection. Kemetic wisdom teachings tells that if the mind is filled with stress related thoughts and frustrations, these will manifest physically and will then be referred to as disease. Kemetic diet, said by Dr. Mwata Ashby. In other words, Kemet mystery teachings tell us that stressful thoughts crystallize over time into effects in the body that modern medicine diagnoses as disease. The disease began long before the symptoms showed up. Thus, we can see how vital it is to find and use regularly as many stress combating tools as possible. Psychology says it's not the stress that is stressful, but our perception of the stressor. Stressful situation as stressful. Good food, good mood. All races feel this suppression of emotions, most acutely felt by melanated individuals, which then leads to emotional eating, and then it's a vicious cycle. Be the lotus, which is always risen above the murky waters. Divinity that is always within you. Live as our ancients did. Seek Ntr within and without. Pour from your overflow. Study ancient wisdom. Even the Bible encourages the getting of wisdom, just as the ancients admonished. Know thyself. Sema Rek, the study of ancient wisdom. I put this slide in of these ancient ancestors doing what it looks like sun gazing. And I just want to refer back to one of my earlier slides where I said that knowledge is not just going to drop into your head, because I like to think that they're actually getting downloads, and that's why you see the rays of light depicted as coming down into them. And maybe not to start with, but once you get to a certain stage, I think, in your study, then I feel like it's like you know the downloads will come, because now you're living as the ancients lived, you're eating as they lived, you're taking in every different way, you know, from what you're looking at, what you're listening to, who you've got around you, what environment you're putting yourself in. Now your body temple is able to receive the downloads. But we have to, in my humble opinion, we have to live how they were living in order for us to bring back the glory of our beautiful body temples, rather than all this sickness that we have now. Sema Tawi of right action. Sema Ari Ma'at. Uwa. Sema Uwa. The Sema Tawi of meditation. Sema Uashu. Sema Tawi of divine love. Again, this is talking about the inner union first, because you can't attract an outer union with someone else unless you have that union going on within you. Sema Tantrism is concerned with the teachings of the Tantras. So these are rituals for healing, rituals for averting evil, and for bringing union with the female creative principle, which again is just intuition, instinct, creativity, innovation, etc. And those are things that you can do to basically, in my humble opinion, in terms of what I've studied so far, it's about bringing your life force, which the most powerful life force you have is your sexual energy, and basically raising that energy up to into your higher aspects, so that you can use it to create things in the world. With another partner, the same is done. It's not just for, you know, smashing bodies together. It's actually about creating something, you know, in this creation that we are living in, to make the world a better place. Western culture, mental health, these Eastern Sangoma or shaman or healer, symptoms, i.e. nightmares, sharpened intuition, sixth sense, etc. Sema Kemet Yoga encourages you to look for the synchronicities. The more you do, the more divine your life will be. So the impact of Sema Kemet Yoga on mental health is that instead of you feeling like you've got mental health problems because you're having all of these symptoms I mentioned earlier, now you will realize that you are a healer, and we're all healers. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just having a beautiful awakening. Flushes out redundant energy, anchors light. Sickness cannot exist where there is life force. Movement is life. Yoga moves the energy. More joy, empowerment, love, gratitude. Less practice, more grief, fear, depression, powerlessness, victimhood, etc. At how Sema Kemet Yoga is impacting emotional health. So spiraling downward, you will have boredom, pessimism, frustration, overwhelmment, disappointment, doubt, worry, blame, discouragement, anger, revenge, hatred, rage, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, unworthiness, fear, grief, depression, powerlessness, and victimhood. Spiraling upwards though, you're moving the energy around, you will feel contentment, hopefulness, optimism, positive expectations and beliefs, enthusiasm, passion, joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation. The impact on your spiritual health is that you'll feel more balanced, more connected, more grounded, and just more in the flow. Get to reprogram your mind. You can use each of the poses to program it with whatever it is you want to program it with. For instance, I like to program wheel for me being an unbroken wheel of abundance, joy, love, and all of my heart's desires. In conclusion, after taking part in my yoga demonstration and watching my presentation, hopefully you leave here today with some coping skills to combat the perceived stress of modern life. Some tools to amplify yoga asana or practice are being in nature, meditation at the beginning and the end of practice, or moving meditation, so meditation throughout the whole practice, fasting, affirmations. A suggestion would be, my body temple is a clear vessel for divine light, or my gut is clear and the way is clear for the divine light to anchor on the earth through me, or I seek healing from the earth and the earth supports me, or the metanoda for earth is Ta'at, so I seek healing from Ta'at and Ta'at supports me. Aromatherapy suggestions would be fennel, rosemary, grapefruit, juniper, lemongrass, citronella, and crystals that could amplify your practice would be citrine, sunstone, and fire agate. The murky waters. The ability to remember all our divine aspects, thus become a true asset to our communities, thus having a true domino impact on our environment. Each deep breath makes a connection with your higher and divine self, the Most High, through the heart, through Osset. This is the ultimate gift of Sema Kemet Yoga. To stay in touch with me, please visit www.zinganics.com. Call me on the number provided there. You could email me at yoginizing@hotmail.com. Zinganics, supporting your healing journey through ancient wisdom. Also, follow my yoga page at yoginizing on Instagram. If you were fortunate enough to be at our event on gut health on 21st of September 2019, now's the part where we do a quick demonstration of chair yoga, poses specifically designed to keep the gut clear and let it be a clear channel for divinity and to anchor basically your best and greatest version. If you are unfortunately not at that presentation, then you will need to look in the description, look in the comment section, and somewhere in the video I will leave a link to a video I did earlier on in the year to do with yoga that is really brilliant for keeping your gut a clear channel for the divinity that you are. And that's the end of this video or presentation. however you're experiencing it. And I say one thing that I love to say at the end of all of my presentation, and that is, love you. Love you, because that's all you came here to do. Mwah.